Ho, 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 oh, wow. How's life going? Steve Bannon, NBC interview from last year. Why? We were informed by the White House that if Associated Press did not align its editorial standards with President Donald Trump's executive order renaming the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, the AP would be banned or barred from accessing an event in the Oval Office. All right.
At a high level, if you say what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy.
What is this? Is this part of like a larger interview, or is there like a full link to this? Thank you. Let's hear what you guys say.
X, are you okay? This is X, and he's a great guy, high IQ.
Wait, is this the kid that he gave the crazy, bizarre name to or whatever? How come you didn't get in with the rationalists? The talk you had with Eliezer Yudkowsky was pretty neat. I don't know. I think that they're mainly focused on like talking about AI and stuff, and I just don't have as much of an interest there. So the people at the event all seem pretty cool though.
He's a high IQ individual.
And he's got this. Check out this cool chain he's got.
So thank you very much. We had a busy day today. The king just left, and we've had a great discussion, terrific discussion concerning Gaza and everything else. We had discussions also about Saturday at 12 o'clock. It's going to be a big moment. We'll see what happens. I don't expect much happening with these people, but we'll see what happens. And we're going to be signing a very important deal today. It's Doge, and I'm going to ask Elon to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things that we found, which are shocking. Billions and billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse. And I think it's very important. And that's one of the reasons I got elected. I say we're going to do that. Nobody had any idea it was that bad, that sick, and that corrupt. And it seems hard to believe that judges want to try and stop us from looking for corruption, especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that.
For a reminder for anybody that gives a fuck about the constitutional order, Doge is supposed to be refashioned from the USDS, the United States Digital Service. This is where they draw their legitimacy from, and they try to say that Obama started it. He did start the USDS. That's just supposed to be to help offices basically streamline their paperwork process, get stuff like digital ready, like just to basically make systems more efficient. Now, they said on paper that that was supposed to be what they were doing. However, finding waste, fraud, and corruption, that's squarely outside of the realm of just digitally making things better. So the scope of the job is expanded. The legality is not questionable. It's illegal. With the mission that Doge has been enacting to go and discover waste, fraud, and abuse in other departments, it's not something that the executive office of the presidency can be tasked with. It's outside of the role of that office. But just they try to say this. Just remember when you hear this, waste, fraud, and abuse, that's not in the purview of the president to go to every department and discover on his own unilaterally and then to dismantle them if he doesn't like what he finds. But
especially when we found hundreds of millions of dollars worth, much more than that, in just a short period of time. We want to weed out the corruption, and it seems hard to believe that a judge could say, we don't want you to do that. Well, so maybe we have to look at the judges, because that's a very serious, I think it's a very serious violation. I'll ask Elon Musk to say a few words, and we'll take some questions. Elon, go ahead.
Sure. So at a high level, if you say what is the goal of Doge and I think a significant part of the presidency is to restore democracy. This may seem like, well, aren't we in a democracy? Well, if you don't have a feedback loop, FKX, we would have to, if you it's all right. So, I tell you, gravitas can be difficult sometimes. If there's not a good feedback loop from the people to the government, and if you have rule of the...
Also, just as a quick thing, this is always a Man, fuck, what was I reading the other day? Wait, was this on stream? No, I think this is off stream. There's a strange thing that happens in the United States where two different parties can claim a popular mandate, the president and the Congress, because both are voted on. And some guy theorized that if the United States ran into issues, that it would be because of it would be an issue relating to the fact that the president could claim that he has a mandate from the people because he's got a popular vote that stands in opposition to the mandate that Congress has as like a voted on body of leaders. I only say this because when you hear somebody say that the president is working through the will of the people, like what Elon keeps saying, this is authoritarian speak, that we don't need the Congress, we have the people. Right? I feel like every bad guy villain, doesn't Bane say this like a million times in The Dark Knight Rises? The people, we are letting you, the people. It's always, we are authoritarian, but it's okay because we have a mandate from the people to be authoritarian. It doesn't matter if 100% of the country votes on you as president. That doesn't mean that you can just start doing things that aren't in the purview of the executive branch. That's not what that means.
From the people to the government. And if you have rule of the bureaucrat, or if the bureaucracy is in charge, and then what meaning does democracy actually have? If the people cannot vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives.
Yeah, and then also remember, keep in mind like how fluidly we move from thing to thing. So for the longest of time, before they had the popular vote, we're not a democracy at all. We're a constitutional republic. We don't live in a democracy. This is a constitutional republic. Democracy. But now that Trump won the popular vote, we're a democracy. What do you mean the president can't do whatever he wants? We're a democracy. More people voted for Trump than the other guy, so we're a democracy now. And now the president can do literally whatever he wants. Yeah.
Vote and have their will be decided by their elected representatives in the form of the president and the Senate and the House. Then we don't live in a democracy. We live in a bureaucracy. So it's incredibly important that we close that feedback loop, we fix that feedback loop, and that the public's elected representatives, the president, the House, and the Senate, decide what happens, as opposed to a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there aren't some good...
All of this ultimately hilarious because Elon is an unelected bureaucrat. That's exactly what he's doing. That's his role right now. As an unelected bureaucrat, he's now going through federal agencies and deciding what he wants to keep and what he doesn't want to keep. But okay.
To a large unelected bureaucracy. This is not to say that there aren't some good. There are good people who are in the federal bureaucracy, but you can't have an autonomous federal bureaucracy. You have to have one that is responsive to the people.
We didn't have one, but
that's the whole point of a democracy. And if you looked at this, if you looked at the founders today and said, what do you think of the way things have turned out? Well, we have this unelected, fourth unconstitutional branch of government, which is the bureaucracy, which has, in a lot of ways, currently more power than any elected representative. And this is...
It's just a fundamental misunderstanding. I mean, like, maybe because he's not American, maybe he doesn't know how our government works. I don't know. Do they do this on the citizenship test? Federal offices are authorized by the Congress. Every part of that is constitutional. Federal offices do not have more power than Congress. They have a different type of power, which is the power to execute law from Congress. They literally are created by the Congress. So to say they have more power than the Congress doesn't really make any sense whatsoever, but okay.
This is not something that people want. And it's not... It does not match the will of the people, so it's just something we've got to fix. And then we've also got to address the deficit. So we've got a $2 trillion deficit, and if we don't do something about this deficit, the country's going bankrupt. I mean, it's really astounding that the interest payments alone on the national debt exceed the Defense Department budget, which is shocking because we spend a lot of money on defense. But if that just keeps going, we're essentially going to bankrupt the country. So what I really want to say is, like, it's not optional for us to reduce the federal expenses. It's essential. It's essential for America to remain solvent as a country, and it's essential for America to have the resources necessary to provide things to its citizens and not simply be servicing vast amounts of debt.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million?
Right.
etc.?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position.
Like this is none of your business. I'm sorry, but so is Doge in charge of investigating the net worth of individuals who work for government now? What does that have to do with anything? It's not in the purview of your job. Wasn't in the purview of the USDS. What is it in the written purview of the Doge authorized by executive order? It's like, what? So if you're a government worker and then you somehow have a high net worth, now you're going to be investigated? What does that mean?
Which is, what happened at USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why.
Like, what do you mean? Like, that's none of your business. What do you mean? They mysteriously get wealthier. We don't know why. Who cares? Is there evidence of corruption or something? Why are you even looking at this? Like, what a strange way to evaluate. Like, imagine I'm doing like an audit of my company and I notice, hold on here, Jader Vernanda. Why are you worth so much money? I Googled your net worth and I see you're worth $5 million, but I only pay you guys minimum wage to work on my servers. And it's a low minimum wage too, because those guys are all from Indonesia. How the fuck are you worth so much money? So now I'm going to like publicly announce that there's some full on investigate. Like, this is just wild.
Why? Where does it come from? I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense.
The reality? I like how he just said, why am I watching this? Like, think about what's being said. So you have a government employee, 6-figure salary. Somehow, I don't even know how, but somehow we know their net worth. Wait, did you Google it or did you see it reported on your fake news platform X? We see on X, people are saying this person's worth a lot of money. Well, the conclusion is obviously they're stealing from the government. How the fuck, you dumb motherfucker? How the fuck did you get to that part? Excuse me. Can we even get like a shred of evidence of evidence? Like, can we even get like a third order removed indication of some kind of wrongdoing? Or what are we talking about?
I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at, say, if you look at, say Treasury.
Is he about to start throwing out figures when we have no evidence for anything that's been so far? What the fuck?
For example, basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits.
He's saying there was no clear reason for the wealth that they accumulated. It's fair to ask how you attained your wealth. Excuse me, what? In what world? If your boss, first of all, how do they even know? Would be number one. Like, unless an IRS is, like, there's an IRS audit or something because you're not paying your taxes. What do you mean? Why the fuck would they ever even have access to that information? Why should they have? Like, what are you talking about? Also, this whole him pointing out like one or two of these random fucking things is so stupid.
It's because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks.
They're public officials, dude. Their financials are all public. No? What? You think that just because somebody's a public... Bro, we don't have Trump's taxes. The president of the United States. You motherfuckers were happy with this orange buffoon not even showing you his financial records. And you think that you're entitled to know the financial, like every single financial aspect of every single public servant?
Checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation, can take up to a year to get on the list. And even once on the list the list is not used. It's mind-blowing. So what we're talking about here, we're really just talking about
Any examples or?
adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared towards complaint minimization, so then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that, no, actually, we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent wisely on things that matter to the people. I mean, these things, like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical, I think. It's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it.
Like, he sounds like every single middle manager that software employees used to complain about, where like a guy comes in. Actually, Elon got caught doing this even with Twitter, and he's like, hey, and all the devs are like, what's up? And he's like, I was looking at the code earlier, and it's like, what code? He's like, all of it. He's like, okay. He's like, I notice you guys don't have comments on every single line. And it's like, yeah, nobody does that. Well, I read that comments are good. And I think it would be way easier for everybody if you guys made sure that after every line of code you put a comment, just so that we know what every single thing does. Like, this is because I read somewhere also, like, are we on Ruby on Rails yet? I heard that was a good new thing. Like, everything he says just sounds so fucking retarded. It reminds me when he was talking about on Twitter, when he was on a space, and he was like, we need to refactor the whole stack. And then some guy shows up who's, I guess, like an actual software dev. And he's like, hey, what do you mean when you say that? Like, what part of the stack don't you like? And he's like, well, all of it. And the guy's like, well, what's bad about it? And he's like, well, it's got high ping or whatever. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, all of it is the most retarded shit in the world.
So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, like, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, like, why is there no identifying information?
Like, if you ask these questions, it's also funny when people do that. This is also, like, it's the number one indicator of a person who is, I would say 65 IQ or lower. Like, they're right at the threshold for autonomous breathing and heart beating. Like, if they were any dumber, they would forget to breathe and die. When somebody will come up and ask a question, has anybody ever asked this thing before? And it's like, actually, yeah, it's like one of the most commonly asked questions ever. Have you never read about that? Like, did you ever ask anybody? Like, people come up like, has anybody ever wondered why this? And it's like, well, you literally have a fucking direct line to the president. Why don't you ask him to ask the people that run these agencies? Like, why not just say, like, hey, why do we have this? Because you know what? There might actually be a really good explanation. Why don't you try that before you go to the public and just start presenting all of these insane conspiracy theories? Like, why not ask a question one time to any of the employees? Maybe?
Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to...
This screams of him not coordinating with anyone at the agency to understand how things work and why they're set up the way. Yeah, because he doesn't. That's not what they're doing. Him and his little crony, little fuck employees are just running into these agencies, and then they're locking everybody out, and then they're putting their dirty, filthy little fucking USB drives into all these systems and sucking out all the info to see what stupid shit he can, shit on to Twitter the next day. And then anybody that gets in his way, he emails his little daddy Trump and says, "Can you please fire these people?" And that's basically what they've been doing. They're just run amok.
Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it, and that they receive it quickly and accurately. I'll tell you another crazy thing. So, You know, one of the things is like we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this, obviously there need to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, well, okay.
Like, what does that mean? There needs to be a lot of people, but not as many. According to who? According to you? Like, first of all, I don't even know if you're allowed to fire people in the federal government, like the executive branch. I'm not sure if they can, because I think it counts as is it called downsizing? I don't know if you're actually legally allowed to just start firing a bunch of people in a department, because I think that you're actually mandated by Congress not to do that. You can't just start downsizing an executive agency without authorization. But like, even with what he's saying, like there should be a lot of people, but less. How did you even arrive at that conclusion?
Well, if people can retire, you know, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated, then written down on a piece of paper. Then it goes down a mine. And I'm like, what do you mean a mine? Like, yeah, there's a limestone mine where we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, then the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we can take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to, you know, boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else. And you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So anyway, so I think, you know, that's an example. Like at a high level, if you say, like, how do we increase prosperity? Is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles. And so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet, by the way. So are people normally this quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk.
I have to what?
Including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a hostile takeover of government and doing it in a non-transparent way. What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, it's not a hostile takeover of government. We are the government. We were voted on by the people. And transparent. We're the most transparent ever. Don't you see all my tweets every day?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger mandate from the public.
There you go.
The public voted.
Yep, and then do the thing that I tweet every day. Do that one next.
You know, we have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We won the House. We won the Senate. The people voted for major government reform. There should be no doubt about that. That was on the campaign. The president spoke about that at every rally. The people voted for major government reform, and that's what the people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for. And a lot of times, that, you know, people that don't
Just to be clear, also, Trump did not win a majority of the vote, but
get what they voted for. But in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for, and that's what democracy is all about.
Mr. Musk, the White House says that you will identify and excuse yourself from any conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are, in effect, policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent.
I kid. He's got it. No. There's no accountability and transparency. Please do we're super transparent because we post on X all day. Please.
Accountability and transparency.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website.
Good.
So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been I don't know of a case that
Our actions are so transparent. Everything we're tweeting out was already posted on government websites before we took over, you know? Wow.
where an organization has been more transparent than the Doge organization. So, you know, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, you know, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts. When it comes to the Pentagon, for instance, which the president I know has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any transparency for the American people?
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's...
Hypothetically, would you not be concerned if our elected officials were entering office with a relatively small net worth and leaving office with millions of dollars on a salary of $200K? I wouldn't even dignify what a joke question with a response to a group of people who allowed Trump to get into office without ever posting his taxes, and then were screeching as you were smearing shit all over your faces that it was totally acceptable for him to break that norm. So if that was ever a thing to be cared about, you completely and totally kamikaze any sort of public right to demand that sort of thing. So whatever the hypothetical is, I would never, ever, ever answer a buffoon supporter over it, because you guys clearly don't give a fuck. So,
You know, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately, you know?
Including you yourself.
Yes. But transparency is what builds trust, not simply somebody asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watch that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say those two words as opposed to the third word that I usually use, but in this case, fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, you know, because nobody ends a contract. You get a lot of that. You have a contract that's a 3-month contract. Now, normally, if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big.
Yeah.
But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months. You know, it's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, you know? They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence, maybe.
Yeah.
It could be corruption. It could be a deals made on both sides, you know, where the guy gets the money, he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts, so he has to get a kickback. So that's what I got.
Are you generally sympathetic with the idea of increased oversight on federal agencies to prevent overspending? No, not really. Not anymore. I've like ran out of sympathy for this. These are just like retard talking points for retards. If it works for you, like that's great. But like this is the equivalent of like some dude, coming into your fucking kid's bedroom with an assault rifle and then standing there and you're like, who are you and what the fuck are you? And you're like, are you not in favor of somebody making sure your children are safe? And you're like, I don't know. No, I don't even know who you are. It's like, oh, so you don't want the kids to be safe? No. So, I'm sorry, but the idea that these people could literally fucking bust a nut in your fucking eyes and tell you it's clear eyes or some shit, and you're like, well, isn't it good that at least somebody... No, it's just stupid. Like, what you're saying is fucking nonsense. We already have the Office of Government Accountability. We already have watchdogs for every single major organization in the government. Like, these things already exist. You can't just say, like, well, are you opposed to the idea of them, and then insert whatever retard speak, Trump or Elon fucked into both sides of your head the previous day. Like, no, I'm so over it. God, it was a stupid fucking question that you asked. There are tons of organizations that already exist that have this exact job. Like, how do you think the country functions or runs at all? We still have we did. I don't know what the fuck will be in 4 years. We have the largest economy in the world, right? We have so much shit that functions here in the United States, believe it or not. Do you think it all happens on accident? Do you think it all happens randomly, like by chance? What a stupid fucking question.
Elected for that and borders and military and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope that the court system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find.
It's just fucking retarded. Your discretionary spending is 1.7 trillion. You think over half the money that our government is spending is waste, fraud, and abuse. Even if you include the full budget, let's assume they're talking Social Security and Medicare as well. You think a sixth of our budget is just being wasted, really, on waste, fraud, and abuse, really. Why didn't you find any of this on your first administration? What were you doing then?
That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings. And he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million. $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants.
Yeah, but was this specified by Congress? Was this money spent illegally? Was this part which part of the federal government was doing? Like, just because you fund something you don't like doesn't make it illegal, and it doesn't make it waste, fraud, and abuse. The fact that they use all of these terms interchangeably is also a huge indicator that he's full of shit as well.
All illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Mr. Musk, can I ask a question?
If I may sort of...
Can somebody tell me the implication? Because they were paying twice the normal roommate rate at 100% occupancy. Don't roommates usually go up as occupancy increases? Isn't that normal? I've only stayed at a million fucking hotels. I feel like as they fill up more, the rates go up. I don't even know what the point of that statement was. Whatever. Just
going for the president's comments. At a high level, you say, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring.
It's not. It's income and outlays, okay? You make money, which you've reduced with the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, okay, that you want to expand, and he wants to extend. So that's one way you're reducing income, and that has to do with your outlays. How much money do you spend? And they've talked about increasing, almost doubling, the size of the largest federal outlay, which has to do with defense spending. And he's too much of a coward to cut any other real spending. So he just goes after all of these smaller government agencies that I don't even know how much money, if they're even going to fucking save money at the end of the day on this. And
if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. And but with the support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from $2 trillion to $1 trillion, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build, and if we do that, that means I think we can get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%, and that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And next year, there is no inflation by $1 trillion. That means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation.
I don't think the GDP and the federal spending by the government are one-to-one at all like that, but okay.
There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt.
Wait, what?
And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop.
First of all, this assumes you're on an adjustable rate for any of these things, which I don't know if any of those things are on an adjustable rate. Car loans, mortgages, and student loans, I'm almost certain 99% of these are fixed rate. Number one. Number two, I don't know why the government having a smaller or larger deficit for the budget, how that's going to influence the federal funds rate. Or I don't know. Okay, like none of this means anything. This is all like.
That's a fantastic scenario for the average American. I mean, imagine they're going down the grocery aisle and the prices from one year to the next are the same, and their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped. How great is that?
What is it? I guess it's because he's a billionaire. He's never had a mortgage payment before. Like, it doesn't work that way. What is he talking about?
That for the average American.
We had no idea. We had no idea we were going to find this much, and it's open. It's not like complicated. It's
not
simple
that complicated.
Stuff. It's like
a lot of work. Yeah.
We can't believe it. A lot of work. A lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere maybe $500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're talking
really crazy.
about. You know, normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here, you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good.
Yeah.
And you can look at the title and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. You know, the public gets it. You've seen the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on.
Mr. Musk, President Trump,
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOGE cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the plan?
I really don't know. I know this.
How do you not know how your government works? Why he doesn't know how his government works? He has no idea. He doesn't know because he doesn't ask his DOJ. He doesn't ask the Office of Legal Counsel. He has no fucking idea. He doesn't know what's legal or illegal for any of this shit. It literally has absolutely no idea like what the fuck they're doing. It's a joke.
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOGE cuts will ultimately need a vote in Congress. Do you agree with that? Is that the plan?
I really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence? Why would that happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda, will you abide by that ruling? Will you comply?
Well, I always abide by the courts, and then I'll have to appeal it. But then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum. And it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books.
They're going to cover up billions and billions of dollars of fraud, or I'm sorry, trillions of dollars of fraud in a month?
If a person's crooked and they get caught, other people see that, and all of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So, yeah the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But
That's good,
appeals
at
take
least,
a long
I
time,
guess.
and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States and taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings. They're operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that. And this is big numbers. Talk about $100 to $200 billion a year. Serious money.
Mr. Musk, you said
And for what? In what? What is he even referring to there? 100 to 200 billion dollars a year of what? Of waste, fraud, and abuse? Like where? What?
on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza. But after fact check this, it apparently Gaza in Mozambique, and the program was to protect them against HIV. So can you correct the statements? It wasn't sent to Hamas actually. It was sent to Mozambique, which makes sense why condoms was sent there.
Yeah.
And is this guy, is that Stephen Miller? Or am I mixing him up with other bald dude?
How can we make sure that all the statements that you said were correct, so we can trust what you say?
Well, first of all,
God, I fucking hate that dude. God, On the Wall. Okay, is a great album by Pink Floyd.
some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about.
What do you, really excited about? That's not your job, you retarded fuck. It's not your job to decide what Americans are excited about. You don't even have a real job. You literally are a fake unelected bureaucrat in the White House at Trump's invitation. That's all you are.
And that is really an enormous number of condoms, if you think about it. If it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still, why are we doing that?
Mr. Musk, can you talk a little bit about how closely you're working with agency heads as you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads, there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly.
He doesn't even know. Does he not even understand how his own shit works? Well, does he not know the answer to this question? Why he talks like he talks like a guy who doesn't know anything. He feels like he's every middle manager retard ever. What are you guys actually doing to increase, how fast the trucks are picking up trash from everybody's house? Well, we've come in and we've, we're working with all the drivers to increase our optimization and what was this guy's name?
Hi everyone, it's Skunk Paste here, and
Every single time Elon Musk talks about the government, this is what he sounds like.
Hi everyone, it's Skunk Paste here, and you may or may not have noticed, but I just received a business cut. What does this mean for the brand of Skunk Paste? Well, essentially it means you're going to be seeing a great new viral outreach burst of business-related content. What does that mean? It means viral approach, marketing schemes, theoretical distribution, employee relation management. Diabolical web overdrive, advertisement sensibility, outreach announcements, quantized distribution, online web content, pivotal techniques to increase your marketability and sales output, stock portfolio, tip trading, techniques, stock investment leeway opportunities. More content delivered straight to your feed. How can I increase my growth? What are my sales figures? What's my bottom line? What is the input-output mechanism for regrowth and remanagement? Staff clearing, business-wide accountability programs, accountability boosters, initiatives and incentives for your employees to overdrive their concepts, paid vacation time, and more. So with all of these great tips, you'll be sure to be successful. With all of these great tips, you'll be sure to make it in the business field. Whether it's online distribution, sales management, team efforts, viral content, or anything related to business, marketing outreach approach, theoretical distribution theory, you will be making your success fields in the rounds. So I can't wait to see your growth. Together we're going to take this journey and follow it together. We're both going to be growing in our business ventures. So thank you very much for following my new business channel. And this is about business now. So get with business. It's about business. So.
The agency head.
How much impact as you're directing these cuts? Do they have how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads, yeah. So there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check regularly with the president to make sure that this is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk almost every day, and I double check things to make sure is this something.
Oh, he double checks. Oh, at least he double checks things. Fuck me, I didn't even know that. That is one new piece of information that I've gotten from here. Thank you. He double checks things. He double checks things.
Mr. President, you want us to do this? Then we'll do it.
USAID has been one of your main targets.
Somebody should say, what do you think is the legal theory that the judges are running with as they're issuing temporary restraining orders against you guys? Like, why do you think they have a legal problem with what you're doing? Just curious. I would just like to hear them stumble through the answer to that. I wouldn't. It would just make me mad.
Then we'll do it.
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding for Ebola prevention and for HIV prevention.
HIV prevention. Careful, because you know what a big part of HIV prevention is? It's fucking condoms. Careful.
Yes, correct. And we are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we'll also fix the mistakes very quickly. So,
do you see it as a worthy cause, USAID?
I think that there's some worthy things, but overall, if you say what was the bang for the buck, I would say it was not very good. And there was far too.
What do you mean, bang for the buck? Like what? Like, are you looking at these to be like economic investments, or?
Too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious and do not stand the light of day.
I can just ask a follow-up to the Pentagon.
Oh, USAID money was going to influence elections. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Contracts. If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is that
which we
a
definitely need
conflict
to
of
do
interest?
and are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know. Because every one of
there's not a conflict of interest because it's not me, it's my company. Okay. Fuck me, I didn't even consider that. I didn't consider that one.
Contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where where it was awarded to SpaceX and it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know. Because every one of them was.
The president said the other day that you might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills, or...
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Go ahead.
Well,
I've seen people do this in debates. Sean did this a few times where you're like, so you guys said some retarded shit, and both of them are like, yeah, he'll take this one. Go ahead.
bills, or...
Trump leans over so fast. Elon, you got this one, right?
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Go ahead.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, really, the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting. Sorry for this. I thought my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears and stuff. So it's a bit hard to
Oh, he's so personable.
hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. No, the stuff we're doing with Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example, like I mentioned, just making sure that when a payment goes out, it has to have
We're just gonna repeat the same fucking stupid shit we said earlier. Okay.
a payment categorization code. It's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? I don't know, ever?
It seems completely inappropriate to have a child in this presser. What are you talking about? Don't you know how business works?
Ladies and gentlemen, find one that has. And the men that work for me, and they are men I know. I make it my business to be there and to see their work. I don't lose my tools in the hole and spend months fishing for them. I don't botch the cementing off and let water in the hole and ruin the whole lease. I run a
have his kid
family
with him.
business. This is my son and my partner, H.W. Plainview. We offer you the bond of family that very few oil men can understand. I'm fixed like no other company in this field, and that's because my Coyote Hills well has just come in. I have a street.
Really? And we want to just, in order to actually pass audits, you have to have financial information that allows you to trace the payments. And once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization. If a company or an organization is on a do not pay list.
Yeah, we've heard this. How many times does he say this in this one thing? Is this like the 6th time? How many times have they brought up this do not pay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, good talking point. Did you guys rehearse this one beforehand? Jesus.
Should not pay it. I'm sure you would agree. Like, if it's quite hard to get on that payment, the do not pay list, it means that this is.
Oh yeah, good point. Also, wait. So you want like these fields to be labeled more for payments going out? Aren't you describing bureaucracy? Like, aren't you describing like a bureaucratic thing here? So you want more bureaucracy, or?
I would agree. Like, if it's quite hard to get on that payment, the do not pay list, it means that this is someone that is just. It's like.
Yeah, that's a good point too. What do you think people are going to write in these hypothetical fields? Like, we implemented the justification field, and we went into and we moved all of them over from Notepad and JSON to SQL databases because they weren't using those before. He tweeted this out apparently. And then we sorted and we used our ingenious to find all these people that wrote, "I'm stealing from the government" in all these fields. And that's how we got all the fraud. When they started labeling all the fields as theft and fraud and waste, we just deleted those payments. And now we saved hundreds of trillions of dollars, quadrillions of dollars from the government.
That payment, the do not pay list, it means that this is someone that is just, it's like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters, that kind of thing. We should
not the known fraudsters.
Okay, then. But currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Many transactions. And by the way, hundreds, thousands of transactions like that. You know, we have a big team. And for the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me that are in charge are allowed to do the right thing, namely make sure everything's honest, legitimate, and competent. But we're looking at just, when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education. They're much bigger areas. But the USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent, and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe this. Other people, law professors, they've been saying, how can you take that person's right away? You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive amounts of fraud that we caught. I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already.
He wanted to say trillions, but he's like, is that too retarded?
I think we probably caught way over a lot of billions of dollars already in, what, 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way we're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's pretty sad for our country. I don't understand how it could even work.
On the buyout program, can you personally guarantee that...
Which one?
The buyout program, the operative federal workers. Can you personally guarantee that the workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through September?
Well, they'll get their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buyout. And what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have office space. It's occupied by 4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass, that for 5 years you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault. He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it. But many contracts just extend, and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it. And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way. You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press. Head down.
Coming back tonight. Mark Fogel will be at the White House tonight at about 10 o'clock. If you want to come over, you can say hello to him.
Did the U.S. get anything in return?
Not much. No, they were very nice. We were treated very nicely by Russia, actually. I hope that's the beginning of a relationship where we can end that war and millions of people can stop being killed. They've
I thought this was a day one war being ended.
lost
What happened at
millions
day
of
one?
people. They lost, in terms of soldiers, probably 1.5 million soldiers in a short period of time. We got to stop that war. And I'm interested primarily from the standpoint of death. We're losing all those soldiers. And they're not American soldiers, they're Ukrainian and Russian soldiers. But you're probably talking about 1.5 million. I think we got to bring that one to an end. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're moving.
Let's go. Let's move.
Thank you. We're moving.
10 o'clock. 10 o'clock.
Quickly, guys. Wait, is this supposed to be the website that shows me the savings? Wait, is there supposed to be more? Is there supposed to be more here? Wait, what? Nancy Mace. What? All right, well,